There is a nightmare more terrifying than any other. A nightmare that has haunted thousands of people all over the world. A presence comes into the room, paralyzes its victim, then leaps on their body and assaults them. The entity, as it is often called, has concrete effects, leaving its victims battered and exhausted, their lives in pieces. Sufferers are sure that when they see it, they are awake, and it is real. One woman has been suffering from entity attacks for most of her life. They began when she was just 5 years old. But as Jamie got older, the entities that stalked her became more vivid and more violent, making her increasingly terrified to go to bed.
As soon as I become aware that there's someone in the room, I'll go into a paralysis, and I can't move, I can't shout out, I can't, I'm unable to call for help, and I'm unable to stop any kind of attack. Usually it's an attack. You can't move, you can't scream, feels like you've been drugged somehow. The Shadow Man, and this is just a recent label that I've put on this character. The closest I've seen of him is the arm, because it's been around my throat several times. He's very violent. The fear is extremely real. You look around the room, you're looking for any way out. I can see my clock, I can see the curtains, I see everything in the room that tells me that this is real, this is happening to me, this is really happening. And I'm wondering why my husband can't hear them, why he can't hear the struggle, why he can't hear the fight. And beyond that, I'm wondering what's going to happen to me after they kill me, who's next?
For years, Jamie thought she was alone and feared she was mad or delusional. Then she discovered there were others who had suffered remarkably similar experiences. Research for this film produced hundreds of phone calls.
I was sleeping in my bed, and there was a presence in the room.
I was paralyzed in the bed. He seemed like a shadow.
Probably about 6'5",
well over 6 foot.
very tall,
There was something sitting on my chest.
sitting on top of my chest.
It's a feeling of perhaps the greatest terror that one can imagine.
There was a presence in the room. I thought I could see an entity, black figure. Oh shit. There's a presence in the room. God help me.
Matt Watkins is a psychology student at the University of the West of England. Like others, he has experienced entity attacks for most of his life. Unlike others, he often recorded the events as they occurred.
Friday the 26th, 24 in the morning. Saw some things. Still feeling pretty shaky. There was definitely a presence here. Oh God. Last words were, in my mind, get a grip. It's just the floorboards creaking. Go to sleep, there's nothing to worry about.
It wasn't just literature. Many artists had also depicted the entity. In the Middle Ages, it was often represented as a horned beast that preyed on sleeping women and was sometimes thought to rape them. Later paintings saw it as a heavy demon-like creature sitting on the chests of its paralyzed victim. Why were there so many depictions of the entity experience, and why were they so similar?
Every time something happens like this, I don't really repeat a lot of it, and I try to forget it, and I'm having a very hard time describing how intense it is. The fear is intense. I've woken up with cuts on my hands from my fingernails, clenching my fist. I cracked teeth during my sleep just from the intensity of everything, clenching my jaws. I did think a few times about taking my own life. You just don't see any out to it. What happens is when you get to the point where you're so tired, you're just so tired, and you're so tired of fighting, and every night you know when you go to bed it's going to be another fight, a struggle. You become afraid to fall asleep.
In spite of a normal childhood, Mark Gillen has suffered from particularly disturbing nocturnal attacks since he was a teenager, and still finds them difficult to talk about.
I couldn't explain who it was. I didn't know who it was. I then felt being totally paralysed, the fact that I could not move at all. It was as if the power that was there, the energy, was able to control my body. A couple of years before this happened, my brother actually had this room. He was staying in that bedroom. I started to tell him of what had happened to me in that bedroom. He did actually say to me that he had very similar experiences. He'd gone through certain things the same, such as feeling of being strangled, feeling of someone being there. He didn't go into too much detail, and just probably the same as me, frightened to talk about it. Is it just a coincidence that it was just the same bedroom? Don't know.
I've been hit by like an unseen force. It hits my chest. It penetrates right through my head, through my body, through my chest, yanking my legs. It hits me so hard at times where it knocks me off my mattress.
Ted Philippone lives in Greenwich Village in New York. He claims that he's been suffering from entity attacks on a nightly basis since he was a child. They are so severe, he can no longer hold down a regular job.
It's putting so much fear within me that I'm unable to sleep, that I feel that I have to keep opening my eyes to see if there's something in the room. And it's affected my mood, it's affected my depression, it's totally rendered me literally useless to society, useless to everybody.
With no regular income or family support, Ted has turned to the church and now lives in a Catholic hostel under the supervision of Father Pat Maloney, who claims to have witnessed these strange events.
There's one particular time he seemed to be very upset, not so much agitated, but almost fearful. And he said, "Look, it's at me again, it's bothering me." I said, "What is bothering you?" He said, "You don't believe me." I said, "Of course I believe you, son." So I laid in the corner about a foot away from him, got just that little bit closer, and I felt an immediate type of a vibration, a physical presence of some kind. And yet I did not feel that whatever was bothering or obsessing Ted was malevolent. It was as if he were attracting some force, something outside of our dimension.
Father Pat is not the only one to have observed the phenomenon that has surrounded Ted. His girlfriend of 5 years also claims to have seen these entity encounters.
sitting on the couch watching TV and I guess facing the bathroom door, and the door was open, the bathroom door was open, and I saw some type of grayish silhouette walking out of the bathroom. You couldn't really define the shape if it was male or female. It was just some type of silhouette, very tall, and it was just cloudish, grayish, and it was walking towards Ted's bedroom. Then he said to me, "Did you see that?" So I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Did you see that thing coming out of the bathroom?" So I was like, okay, I must not be going crazy. So that's the first time I ever saw something like that with Ted.
He's seen the best psychiatrists. He's been through medical doctors. We've tried everything. I've tried praying with him. I've tried all the things I know how. And I am still convinced there is something there.
Whether or not science will one day offer a full explanation for these nocturnal attacks is unclear. What is clear is that those who suffer will continue to live in fear of what lurks on the other side of sleep.